Okay, great. Well,
There we go.
got it. Okay, I'm gonna hit that got it button. All right, well, happy President's Day. It is 12 noon, so I'll say good afternoon and welcome. And I really want to have a special thanks to Alison Socha, who, even though knowing it was a holiday, still rallied so we could keep this third Monday going here. And Alison is our 2023 Greater Boston Association of Realtors president. So thank you for your leadership, Alison. And we were just looking at your bio, and when you don't send me a quick bio, I get to then I go and say, she was actually a valedictorian of her class, and she got the Cardinal Madeira Scholar at BU. And Alison, I'm going to have you help me a little bit. You also are, because you're wicked smart, it says that, and just a little competitive, but I'm really excited to have you here. And your practice is with Leading Edge. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your volunteer leadership positions? And then I can't wait to talk to you about RPAC.
Sure. So like most of us who are CRS members, right, we're Realtor super volunteers. There's probably not a committee we haven't yet served on or an opportunity to help out where we haven't stepped up. And that's one of the things I love so greatly about being a member of the Residential Real Estate Council and carrying that designation as a CRS designee. So for me, volunteering was just something in the way that my parents raised us, my brothers and me, and instilled the value of participation, because anything that you're a part of, you have an obligation to help give back to and help further the cause so that you can always be in a position to, I think, really be that active participant. That's just how I was raised, and that's just how I roll, I think is what I would say. In relation to my realtor volunteerism, I have served on the executive committee now at the Greater Boston Association for a handful of years, this year as the president. I've also now served as a board of director for the Massachusetts Association of Realtors. And this year I get to be a board of director for the National Association of Realtors. In addition, this year I'm serving as the FPC advisory member for Massachusetts, helping with our federal political coordinators here in the Commonwealth. Last year and the year prior, I served as the Realtor Party Member Involvement Committee person from Massachusetts, which was great. And then similar to that, I've just served on very varied committees at the local level. Last year, I chaired RPAC for GBAR, and it was a really exciting year. And I was so proud to be able to take on that position as our president-elect. And in addition, I'm that person who's just ready to raise their hand and pop in wherever kind of help is needed. Women's Council side of things, which is where I got my leadership start in real estate. I served as regional vice president for New England, and I've also served as state president, state governor, and state liaison here in Massachusetts. I currently serve as a member of the National Executive Committee too for 2 more years. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. And that's actually why I called on you. And again, thank you for being here, because of RPAC. And only several, maybe I would say about 7 years ago, I got a quick intro into RPAC by our own Lee Brown. And it was quite powerful, because all these years I thought, what is this RPAC? What is this extra $25 or $50 on my dues? I'm paying a lot of money in dues, and I just didn't get it. So I still am trying to learn how to understand all of RPAC myself, even serving on a committee. But I figured you were the person to call for today to explain to people what RPAC is all about, the Realtor Political Action Committee, and all this whole trips and this that I hear about when people, oh, I'm going to see you in Cancun next week, or this or that. So can you explain a little bit about all that? And
yes, it's my honor to be here with everybody today. I do have a quick PowerPoint just because I think it brings home some of the language that we utilize, and then we can take it off when we get to the more Q&A part of things. So hopefully this will, everything is up and running. Can everybody see what they're supposed to see? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So really, for me, the thing that I've taken away these last couple of years with the greater volume of learning opportunities that I've had, being the chair for RPAC Greater Boston, and also being able to serve as a state trustee here in Massachusetts, it really comes down to there's the voting, the acting, and the investing. And that's what makes up the Realtor Party. Because again, we're viewing this like this is about our ethos that is all part of being a realtor, protecting private property rights, making sure that we're able to continue to conduct business in the honorable way that we do as independent contractors. And it's also about understanding one of my most favorite quotes that I've heard over the last few years, which was shared by our, I believe, 1991 national president, Harley Ruda, which is, if real estate is your profession, then politics is your business. Such a vital part of how we are able to do our jobs. It's about how homeowners are able to take part in the American dream. It's about helping folks build their generational wealth and where we're supposed to go with all of that. So I hope today, the ins and the outs that we'll talk about, I'm always a resource. There's so many people in your home state and all of our New England states. There's somebody there that you're able to chat with and get a better understanding of the ins and the outs. But I'd like to emphasize Realtor Party today, because that's the kind of cultural shift that we need to hang our hats on, because it is that kind of 3-level part there, that voting, that acting, that investing, because it's not just about putting kind of dollars towards what we're doing and investing in RPAC. It's also about being an active participant in the community and understanding what's happening in our cities and towns and at our state and our national level, so that we can make sure that we're helping those consumers that we help every day. And then, of course, there's the voting part of it. For the most part, in the New England states, we have a high level of Realtor voter registration, but you still have to show up when it's time to vote. And I really hope that I'm able to impress that upon folks today. So let's talk about why you should invest. Well, we're here to help protect private property rights. Those decisions that get made up at our state capitol buildings, that get made down in DC with Congress, that also get made in our cities and towns through our local mayor, our town manager, or at our town meetings. There's a real opportunity, especially here in New England, for folks to take an active role in understanding what's happening locally. As a matter of fact, just last week, myself, I was able to attend a local housing event in my hometown, and I learned something really, really valuable about how my state senator is planning to approach our housing inventory crisis here in Massachusetts. And I was able to report that back in so that we're able to monitor what's happening at the state level that way. In addition, there's an annual agenda that is pulled together by the advocacy team as part of our national association. And it's a better opportunity for us to understand those initiatives that have a lot to do with, especially these days, fair housing, the inventory crisis, making sure that folks are able to be in safe, quality housing, and the research team that we have through NAR that is able to be shared at the White House, through Congress, and through the halls of all the different governmental arms that exist. We're really, really fortunate that the National Association is able to have a seat at the table when they're having housing kind of chats in all of those locations. And then it also helps us protect our business. It can obviously speak a little more closely to the Massachusetts initiatives, but in Massachusetts, we were deemed essential about 10 days after we went into lockdown during the pandemic. It's how we are able to kind of protect compensation from service taxes. It's how we look at rent control. It's how we look at the tenant's opportunity to purchase. It's about the transfer taxes that are on the rise as discussion points across so many of our cities and towns. So by staying involved within RPAC and being able to receive those updates and visiting that Realtor Party website, you're able to get a really better handle on understanding the things that are shaping the way we'll be doing business over the next couple of years. So that to me is really a big part of why we want to invest. And then of course, there's, why are we acting and investing? Well, through the ACT part of it, not only being a part of your community, there's also internally within RPAC opportunities for you to act. Lots of networking. The more involved you get, the more opportunities you're able to see that there are Facebook groups that are dedicated to working together and helping us get kind of across some of those hurdles that we have. As Nora mentioned at the beginning, there is a event coming up next week where several folks from our President's Circle will be down in Cancun. And that's an incredible opportunity to hear from current and past members of Congress, folks that have served in several presidential administrations, in addition to really cool kind of speakers on the statistical elements within the political activities, and also understanding leadership. Doris Kearns Goodwin was a speaker a few years ago. This year we'll see John Meacham, who is a presidential and American historian. Really cool to be able to take part in those events. Knowledge. So there's all sorts of business practices that we have to get up to speed on, and also understand upcoming policy changes that are on their way to Main Street that kind of start right up there at the top of our political food chain. Understanding what some of the zoning rules and regulations are going to mean for how we're able to increase our housing inventory, which I think we can all agree is in crisis stage at this juncture. And then there's also a part of this, there's an advocacy focus for you to just understand where that rubber meets the road on the national scale and how it all can pull together so that you're better equipped to cope. Now, we think about it, and as part of that advocacy, right? There's our realtor days at our state levels. That's an incredible opportunity for you to get in front of your state representatives and your state senators to chat with them about the things that you're seeing on the ground. Those folks, not only all of us as their constituents, but also those members of their communities who are struggling when they want to keep aging parents in place with them, or if they want to make sure that they're able to help out their children too. So by creating some of those accessory dwelling unit opportunities and being able to help adjust structures so that we're able to keep generations together, to be able to kind of create that sense of family community. This is also where those transfer tax conversations are going to be had. There's also changes with the trends, with the governmental focus on zoning and how all of that will come together. So by taking part, by acting, by joining us for your Realtor Day at the state level, by attending your local association's events so that you can get a better opportunity to talk to local officials, right? Starting with your Chamber of Commerce, with your city halls, with your town halls. And then for all of us too, we have those national meetings where we're able to really understand. This year for mid-year down in DC, and I hope everybody has signed up for it, we're going to be able to have a big block party at the National Stadium where we're going to get as many members of Congress and their staff, which that's really a big part of our conduit. So this is where that ACT part really takes place. It's an opportunity for you to see how it all gets done. Now, the voting part of things, which is huge, making sure that you show up to the polls. In the post-pandemic world, we've had a lot of opportunity now where we are able to vote by ballot in the mail. Pretty easy to get all of that done. It's a great way for you to take part in this great civic duty that we have an opportunity to do, but also at the same time, impress upon our Realtor friends that they need to go vote. Right? It's not just about us showing up to the polls. It's about all of us showing up to the polls so that we can carry the weight of our association protecting those homeowners' rights. Now let's talk about some of our fun acronyms, right? We have RPAC. You hear people talk about that. You hear PAF thrown around, a lot of events that are happening at our local associations. What the heck does all this mean? Well, RPAC is, as Nora said at the open, it's the Realtor Political Action Committee. Now, PACs aren't bad. They're highly regulated. They're an opportunity for us to put the funds together so that we can work and help our Realtor champions, those folks who make sure that they're protecting those homeowners' property rights, that honor our business and our business practices. Let's face it, being a Realtor is a noble profession for so many of us. We're able to help people start that generational wealth, have a place to call home where they can build their family memories and know that they're safe and secure and taking part of being a community that as Realtors, we are community builders. That is what we do every day. And this is how we help get a lot of that accomplished. Now, the PAF part of things is the Political Advocacy Fund. So that's a spot where on your billing, when we get our Realtor dues, if you choose to invest there, that's typically where those dollars go. That is to help fund the advocacy part of things where helping run events and helping kind of move that part of things forward. PAF dollars don't get invested directly into candidates. So that's where that difference really lies. So political advocacy fund, and then there's the PAC. Here in Massachusetts, we've also started our new real estate alliance, which is part of the PAF arm. And that is outside of just a purely kind of political element. It's about helping build community and involvement that way. So how do you do it? Well, there's your Jews opportunity, right? In our boxes where we have, for the most part, the opportunity to uncheck it. I would urge you to keep that check checked. This is your way of making sure that you do, in fact, step up and give to that political advocacy fund. And for us, again, in our local states and our communities, these are those ways that we're able to kind of help with what we did after the pandemic. That's the amazing part of where the Realtor is able to meet that rubber road connection in helping that advocacy. You'll also get called to a lot of association events. There's all sorts of fun things that local associations do, and that's a great opportunity to get involved and also ask questions. So if you're unclear about what's happening, that's your chance to get there in the room with your local association executive and the RPAC team there to help you with that. Additionally, your state will likely have events that you're able to, again, ask those questions, just get that little more involved so that you understand how it's all tying together. And then, of course, at realtorparty.realtor, that is our main page where you will see links to vote, act, and invest, and give you ways that you're able to contribute to your comfort level. Now, for those folks who are willing to step up a little bit more, you can become a major investor. And that is at the $1,000 mark, at the $2,500 mark, and at the $5,000 mark. And then for those super special people, the $10,000 mark, our platinum Rs. So I started off hanging out there in my kind of that $1,000 mark. I knew that it was important. Nobody really had a conversation with me when I was a baby realtor. I just kind of caught on that it felt like I really, really should think about it and take it to that next level. And when I did that, I started to see, oh, there's a little more information, kind of here that is available to all of us. Kind of do a little bit of digging, and you start receiving the political reports on Friday, so you understand what's happening in Congress and what we're doing on that advocacy side. And then from there, I bumped myself up to that Crystal R at $2,500. Now, the fun part about these, as you go up to Crystal R and then Golden R, and if you're in a position to go up to Platinum R, the next year if you're in a position that you're willing to remain at that investment level, you're able to adjust what your kind of recommitment is. So although as a Golden R at $5,000 that first year, well, the following year for me to be in a position to kind of continue that investment, you're able to adjust that amount down to $1,500. Same deal at the Crystal R level. And then, of course, there's President Circle. So at President Circle, that's when you decide that you're going to, in fact, invest directly to candidates. You're going to contribute directly to a candidate's campaign. What we do is we have a group of trustees who handle our disbursements, and they go through and they evaluate all of our Realtor champions at the congressional level. And then they report back into us, and 3 times a year, we receive a list of the folks who are our designated Realtor champions. And we're able to contribute directly to their campaigns. After you've had an opportunity to review each and every one of them, there's a really great bio understanding where their kind of main advocacy plans align with ours, so that you can make a decision about what you'd like to do that way. In addition, at one other time during the year, you're able to make a contribution to both the Democratic or Republican congressional campaign committees in honor of your home congressperson. So for me, my home congressperson is Catherine Clark. And so I'm able to make a contribution directly in her name to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And then they're notified that there are funds that have been put in their name. So you're able to do it that way. And then that's when those really cool meetings where you have an awesome opportunity to meet with other members of Congress and have a chance to not only hear their beliefs in relation to our kind of objectives and our policy initiatives, but also get a chance to kind of see them and chat with them. And for some of us, right, it's one of your home kind of Congress people. And it's really, really nice to be able to have that opportunity to chat with them one-on-one. And in addition, they bring in really cool historians, like, as I mentioned earlier, Doris Kearns Goodwin. This year we'll see John Meacham. A couple of years ago, Nate Silver from 538, who does all that statistical analysis. He was a presenter. He really impressed me because I happened to see he did not have any notes up on the teleprompter. He did everything from memory. And I thought, wow, I guess that's why you're the stats guy and not me. So it's just an incredible opportunity. And it's also a great opportunity to network with other realtors across the country. This is that President's Circle group. So you're able to meet and mingle and kind of those nice side benefits from having an opportunity to catch up with people individually and establish a relationship so that you can potentially become referral partners or perhaps part of a mastermind group list like we have right here in New England. So that's kind of fun. And then the other, so back to that kind of how, right? There's your local RPAC committee where you can get involved and ask those questions, your state RPAC committee, and then of course, the big kind of the mothership there, our Realtor party. And my suggestion to you is when you're at that point where you're considering your investments, speak with your local RPAC committee, your AE, or at your state, so that they can make sure that you are lining up the way you want to do. So here in Massachusetts, if you start early enough in the year, we actually have a program where you can do monthly investments towards your major investor goal. So that if you wanted to make sure that you weren't kind of putting that $1,000 in right out of the gate, right? We all have budgets. We're all trying to plan and take care of ourselves, our families, our friends, and our clients. So if you wanted to be able to separate that $1,000 out over basically an 11-month window, if you start in January, then we're able to put that in place here in Massachusetts. So it's about being informed and asking folks the right questions so that you can understand where your investment might fit and what you're able to do. And I'm going to stop our screen sharing now. What I would say to you is I've heard countless talks from members of our local team and members of our state team and members across the country of where our advocacy arm has made a difference for their clients. Whether it's helping those folks be able to expand their property so that they can have multi-generations be in there, or it's about helping folks who are having issues with tenants' rights and things that they need to be able to do to keep things together. This is just an incredible way for us to give back a little bit more. And so now I will open it up for any questions from anybody.
Thank you, Alison. This is great. And does anybody have any questions before I ask a couple? Okay, well, maybe somebody, all right, so I'll start with my questions.
Mhm.
So I love the idea, maybe Christine, you could pull it up, or but you can go to ner.realtor.org. So, and all the information is in there, correct? Okay.
If you go to realtorparty.realtor, that'll bring you directly to the page that you need to be at to kind of understand those in and outs and get some of those additional kind of factoids so that when you have that conversation at your local, you have everything lined up.
Okay, then the next thing is I heard about contributions for even local elections, like if a realtor is running, for example, a select board or something in there, how does that work?
Sure. So there's a couple of different ways that these things can come to play, and I can speak more directly to Massachusetts with my answer here than I can to any of our other 5 states. So forgive me for that. But here in Massachusetts, so if you're interested in becoming an SPC, which is a state political coordinator, something that quasi mirrors our federal political coordinator program, you are able to become what we call a direct giver to your member of the delegation up on Beacon Hill. So for example, my state rep is, her name is Kate Lipper Garabedian, and I have put in to be her SPC. And that means at that point in time, when I make a contribution to her campaign, which I want to say to her, you know, hi, I'm Alison, I'm your constituent, I'm a realtor. That at that point in time, like at one of her events, then what I would end up doing is letting Johnny know here in Massachusetts, and that is actually allocated because I am that SPC and I'm a major investor. In addition, if you're a major investor, we have a list here in Massachusetts of direct giver candidates where you're able to make a donation directly to their campaign, and it is able to be reflected back into your, again, your investment that you do as a major investor.
And that's something that we could call you, or for example.
Yeah, I mean, I happen to be a state RPAC trustee, and in addition, I'll connect you right up directly with Johnny. So for example, we hosted an event for Senator Rodriguez, I believe is how you say his name, who's down from the South Coast area here in Massachusetts. We held an event for him because he is one of our Massachusetts kind of champions. And I was able to make a donation at that kind of, well, what we call time, right? Directly to him, that was able to be reflected and as part of, again, because I'm a major investor and this was part of our direct giving program.
Got it. Got it. So really, there's so much to learn. And so I love the fact that I think in any state and local organization that you belong to, and thank you for acknowledging the other 5 states, Alison.
Yeah, of course.
And is that call your local association, they'll be most likely to help you and walk you through.
I think, right. I think that's kind of one of your best ways to really get involved. And again, when I say get involved, there's so many different levels that you can do this, right? You do not need to be the chair of your RPAC committee like I did last year. It's just about at least getting that toe into the water, I think, because understanding where that advocacy arm and what's happening out in the field with all of our clients and with our members, that's, I think it's amazing what kind of little, it's like those kind of game of Tetris, right? You start to understand where everything fits together and you can see where I think it's important to understand, as in Boston, as this kind of, as the rent control discussion has now started, right? Understanding where everything fits in and why it is that we've taken the position we've elected to take. That's going to help you as a practicing member of the realtor family be able to make a difference for your clients.
Rick, you have a question. Thank you, Alison.
Sure.
Let me unmute myself here. And but I've just got a couple of observations that made a couple of comments. And first of all, I think that especially in these times of hyper partisanship, it's important to note that the Realtor Party is indeed nonpartisan. And so we are not Democrat, we are not Republican, we are realtors. And regardless of where we sit on the political spectrum, we are looking for those, we are looking to protect private property issues, homeowners, for renters, for landlords, and be able to protect them. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is just a little bit of a reminder to us, and as we're speaking to our colleagues and our associates, it's important, you had mentioned, Alison, acting, just paying attention to what's going on in communities. I remember some of us who are a little long in the tooth may remember Ed Ramey. And back years ago, he was sitting down after work and he's watching local access TV and flipping through it on. And here's a planning board meeting. And they're talking about making some substantial changes. And the question got asked about, well, how are we going to pay this? He said, well, we can just do a transfer tax. And so that got thrown out there. Or maybe just got, the reaction was, wow. He made phone calls immediately to the South Shore Association of Realtors, as well as to the State Association. And we were able to nip that in the bud before it got to town meeting. That's the easiest way to do things, as opposed to waiting until it becomes a warrant item on the town meeting agenda, or it becomes a legislative act that we've got to deal with. So the time to deal with it is early on, and I think it's important that as realtors and involved with the realtor party, the political action committees, whatever, I think it's important for us to kind of spread the word to our colleagues and associates. So
That's the
Absolutely.
perfect summary. You're my favorite now, Rick.
oh, shucks. The check's in the mail, Allison.
Thanks, Corinne. Go
Hi,
ahead.
I have a quick question regarding, you mentioned the dues and how usually there's an opportunity there for $25 contribution. So you mentioned that that's a little bit different. That's the PAF versus the RPAC. So I don't think a lot of people know that. So I think that maybe it's probably a good idea then to give directly to RPAC in another denomination, you know, somewhere throughout the year. If you can't get to the major investor right away, maybe 250, something like that, and then start from there and then go up in addition to your $25 with your dues.
Right. You know, I think to your point, this is all about kind of levels that are comfortable for you and kind of work with what you're doing. And understanding, right? Like it's funny, on the Massachusetts, our RPAC website, you're able to see how much RPAC has saved you. There's a calculator on there. And, you know, I think there's a way for us to think in terms of budgeting ourselves that way. That being said, it is about your comfort level, and working your way up is how most of us who are involved, that's kind of how we did it. When you had another opportunity to shift, you took part. But I think that, you know, it's really interesting to see the more involved you get. I think it's a little bit easier to do the mental hopscotch, kind of up across the way. That's how it worked for me anyway. And it's funny. I think that to the kind of personal one-on-one, right? Like this is an amazing information opportunity right now. Well, I hope so anyway for everybody.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's about sitting down with somebody and kind of walking through it, understanding where it all goes, what it all means, the why, right? So when that next major investor luncheon pops up, even if you're not quite ready to jump in, it's probably a nice idea to attend. Because it's going to help you be just more informed about what you're, you know, kind of what you're doing and where you're going with it.
And that's how I started out. I mean, and this is my first year as major investor, so I'm very excited. I started out too with the small amount, and then I started going to the fundraising, the auctions, the different things like that, and doing auctions online for RPAC. So it's a gradual process, and you see the benefits, and then you want to continue, you know, to do more. So,
you know, oh, and you know what, Rick, just to back up what you said, it's interesting down in Texas this year, they're saying it's not a red problem. It's not a blue problem. It's a purple solution. And that's kind of where we are. That's what we're doing. So I think that, you know, kind of what we're all sharing here just harkens back to Realtor Party. And I think the opportunities, whether it's that information sharing, as Rick noted about, you catch something out of the corner of your eye almost, or, you know, over here, did I hear that right? And next thing you know, you're able to, it's a powerful position that we're in. And I think in the same way that we treat the care for our clients, understanding what's going to affect them when they're on the ground is just that other element that goes with it.
One last thing that just came to my mind is that one of the big things is housing affordability, and Alison, you would address that. And we tend to think that so many of these are easy fixes, and yet sometimes some of the we can kind of contribute to the problem. And what I mean by that is that we're looking at accessory dwelling units. You had mentioned for in-laws or for kids who are coming out of college and multi-generational families. The problem comes up is when you add an addition onto that home, that no longer becomes that affordable price point. It raises that price point up. And so that issues it. And Elliot Eisenberg just had an interesting thing. If anybody's following his blog, you really should.
Agreed.
It's very interesting. It's just a little, I think it's 80 words or less is what he tries to put it on a daily basis. But he had just talked about how since the 60s, the number of affordable housing units, single family dwellings, has been dropping from a point where it was, I don't know, 15% or something years ago. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's down to like 4 or 7% now that are being built each year. And so it deals with zoning. We, on one hand, we want to make sure we don't lose people coming out of Massachusetts or New England. We want to make sure our populations grow and they're robust. But now we've got to have housing for them. We have housing for them. Now we got to deal with, well, what are we going to do about land and whatever. So all these are tough discussions to have. And so for those of us who have the ear of some of our legislators, whether it's at the state or local level, I think it's important for us to make ourselves known and talk about that.
You're right. And I think one of our bywords, I mean, we don't say it all the time, but right, thoughtful. We want to be thoughtful about our policy initiatives and the steps that are taken, and just making sure that in the same way that we are a resource for the folks that we help with homeownership, right? Like same goes on this other side of things. And it's about understanding unintended consequences and understanding that kind of measured, what do we need to do to get to this other spot, with moderated, I think, processes, so that we're not backing anybody into anything. Agreed.
Terrific. Well, I have to say, this is really, to me, the ultimate mastermind. Thanks for your contribution, Corinne and Rick. And Christine, thank you for always being here and hosting it. And Yolanda, one of our network directors, thank you for being here on our leadership team. And most of all, thank you, Alison. Really appreciate it. I learned something about the PAF that I really didn't make that connection. So learning every day. And I will be in Cancun next week and I will see you. I don't know if I'm seeing Rick. Are you going?
No.
Okay. So anyway, I am really looking forward to my first RPAC event, President's Circle, and that's it. Thank you, Alison. Everyone have a great week. Happy
Thank you.
house hunting.
Bye all.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.